Ladies and gentlemen, I have a special guest this week on Stop, Look, and Listen. There's really no introduction necessary. The elegance, the class, the style. She's the matriarch of the Black community. She's the blueprint. Star of our favorite show of all time, The Cosby Show, as Clair Huxtable. We've seen her on Broadway. We've seen her on the big screen. She has fought tirelessly for our people. The amazing Phylicia Rashad. Welcome to Stop, Look, and Listen.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you. So how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing very well. I have to smile about that because it's a good thing to be able to say and really mean,
Exactly.
really mean it.
Yeah, with everything that's going on, it's almost like, I guess just waking up to see another day right now is good within itself. That's a victory. But there's so much to it to accomplish.
And has there ever been a time when that wasn't the case, I wonder? I think what's different now is it's up in our face and we can't deny it.
Right.
I think it's always been the case, but we had little ways meaning humanity itself, had
Exactly.
so many diversions, so many things to tell us, yes, but I got to go over here and take care of this right now. Yes, but, oh yeah, they're meeting up on that hill, they'll fix it. Yes, but you know what I mean? There's so many different ways, but now it's like life has put itself front and center in front of everyone's face.
Mm-hmm.
And there's beauty in it, and there's ugly in it, there's good in it, there's bad in it, there's the desirable, there's the undesirable. It's all these polarities, but the things that are negative are just like, it's like somebody just took their finger and raked it over the chalkboard. The fingernail on the chalkboard, that screeching sound that just makes you stop, look, and listen.
Thank you. I like that. I see it like it's a rude awakening for a lot of individuals. Like they've been trying to brush it under the rug for hundreds of years, and now you can't do it anymore. The pile of dust has been building up for so long that it's impossible to walk into your front door and avoid it.
Well, it's triggered a worldwide awakening, a worldwide movement, a worldwide solidarity among people to stand for human decency. It's really quite simple.
Right.
And that's what's in this moment right now. I think that is phenomenal, that people all over the world have come out to stand together without a leader, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody organized anything and said, on this day, we're going to come out and the whole world's going to come out. No, didn't happen like that. But the whole world came out to stand in solidarity for common human decency. And it would be remiss of us not to recognize and acknowledge that.
Right. Because
we are one humanity. And that's been the problem. The problem is that, so many things have led us to think of ourselves as separate and different from one another.
Mm-hmm.
I
know.
And that causes all of this friction. All of this friction. It's a very interesting time. It's a biblical time, isn't it? It's a biblical time, yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah.
So let's just briefly go into your childhood, because obviously your parents provided you and your siblings with an amazing say the same word again, blueprint to
Mm-hmm.
follow. Could you just speak on growing up in the household and like whether arts was forced upon you and Debbie, or you had the opportunity to pursue other outlets if necessary?
There was a full spectrum. You could pursue anything you were interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother is a poet. My mother is an arts activist and scholar. My father was a dentist. So there you have it. He was a dentist who loved theater, who loved music. So, and then I have a mother who's a poet, who's very interested in space flight. Figure it out. And I grew up in a community of people who wanted young people to succeed, and not only succeed, but to excel. That makes a huge difference. And part of my upbringing, the most memorable time for me was the summer of my 10th year spent in Chester, South Carolina, my mother's birthplace. That of all the summers in my childhood, that is the one that I remember most vividly.
Okay. So let's talk about Chester, South Carolina, and most specifically the Brainerd Heritage Institute.
Mm-hmm.
I went to college about 20 minutes from Chester, South Carolina, Winthrop University.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. My Aunt Bessie she was a professor of mathematics there before she entered the state Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Bessie Lewis Moody.
I'm familiar with the Moody family.
Yes, Katrina.
Her daughter,
Leah Bess.
Yeah, I know Leah Moody. We went to church together.
Yeah, that's her mama. And so when I was in Chester as a 10-year-old, she had just graduated high school and was on her way to college.
Mm-hmm.
And Brainerd Institute, what remained of Brainerd Institute, was just across the street from the house. And this was the house that my mother and all of her siblings were born in. You know what I don't know if young people today experience that the way so many young people in my generation did, where you could go to your grandparents' house and know that this is the house that everybody was born in.
I can speak from experience. I was born in my grandfather's house, lived there for probably the first 4 or 5 years. And of course, with grandparents, they never throw anything away. So he still has pictures from 50, 60 years ago, just sitting around in the living room and in a den. So yeah, that's like my personal museum. When I'm in Beaufort, I go visit him.
See, it's heritage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Brainerd is, and that's what Brainerd represents. It's heritage. It's a heritage of, it's a legacy of people, their stories. It's a legacy of education. It's a legacy of community. And now Brainerd Institute Heritage is the organization that is carrying that legacy forward with preschool literacy in the summertime for the children in and around Chester. And it's absolutely free. We couldn't have it this year because of the pandemic. Right. This would have been our 4th year. But we acquired the Brainerd property in 98. And my mother, Vivian Ayers, set about the task of restoring that one remaining building, Kumler Hall. When I was a little girl, there were at least 4 buildings left on that campus. And we used to go down to Marquis and Cemetery Street to that one building that sat on the corner every night. Mm-hmm. We had a canteen down there at night. We would drink soda and dance. It was great. It was so memorable. I remember that. That seems like nothing to kids today. I mean, they got all these video games and things. But at that time, it was the sweetest. to walk down there after dinner and dance the night away.
So with the workshops and open fields, is it limited to minorities or
no,
kids of all races?
It's open to everyone who would come.
Okay.
But only African American people have come.
Oh, okay.
And that's okay. I mean, if everybody's invited, but hey, we take the people who come to the party.
So speak on the importance of kind of learning within your culture at such a young age, like going to a school and learning about African American history and in the arts, and how that development leads into your growth throughout the rest of your school years and beyond.
Well, I can speak from my own experience because I was educated in this way.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in segregated South in Houston, Texas. I was educated by people who lived in our community, some of whom had taught my father when he was in school. So there was that legacy and heritage piece.
Mm-hmm.
What is important, I think what's really most important is that young people be educated by people who see themselves in the young person. Young people be educated by people who believe in their capacity to learn and their ability to excel. That's what makes the difference.
Mm-hmm.
I had all African American teachers, and I didn't like all of them. I didn't. Some of them I didn't like at all because I didn't think they liked us. But
that might be a story within itself.
That's a story within itself, and that's just to go to say, it's not all unilateral. All the good is not on one side. Mm-hmm. But I must say, overwhelmingly, my experience was that my teachers were determined that we would succeed and excel. They had that for us. It was their goal. It was their duty. It was their job. And they were serious about it.
Harder?
I don't know if they pushed us harder, but they had high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't say these children can learn only so much.
Right.
We'll only teach this much because that's how much they can learn. For our teachers, it was the world was open. It was wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And we were privy to it. And we were supposed to enter into our studies with that understanding. I never felt like there was a ceiling. I never felt like there was a glass ceiling over my head.
Right.
No, I never felt that. And I never had a teacher who made, as I think about the teachers I had, I didn't have teachers who made students feel poorly about themselves for any reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a similar experience as the young princes and princesses that are attending Brainerd now. I attended Penn Center in St. Helena Island, South Carolina for preschool.
Lucky.
Yeah. So it's a national landmark, people. President Barack Obama signed that into order back in 2017.
Yes, thank goodness.
Yes. So based on my personal experiences, like it definitely put me on track as far as, my Black awareness. And even though I went to a predominantly white institution, I still had a sense of self.
That's the point, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the point. And now, you were going to say, and now.
And now, with Stop, Look, and Listen, I feel like it's a vehicle to further educate those, whether within our race or outside of our race, on the major accomplishments and just the resilience as a people that we've overcome all of these barriers over the years, and we're still here and we're still shining. So just tell me about your experience on St. Helena Island. I know you're very fond of the area. You visit Penn Center. I know you kind of want to keep it a secret, but
no, I just want to keep it preserved.
okay.
You know, I just don't.
That's important too.
I want to keep it preserved because there's something that's happening in the area now, and we'll talk about it in a second. But my experience of St. Helena. Well, first of all, you know how many people live in South Carolina that don't even know about St. Helena? Don't even know about Penn Center, never heard of it. Educated people. Do you know how many people they are?
I would say the vast majority.
The vast majority. The vast majority. So I learned about St. Helena Island, I learned about St. Helena Island's existence when I was at Howard University.
Okay.
And I learned about it because there was this beautiful, beautiful young woman who came as a student. And she wore these dark glasses all the time. She had the most beautiful complexion, dark, dark cinnamon, and long wavy hair, right? Mm-hmm. But she wore these dark glasses all the time. And we didn't understand why she wore those dark glasses all the time. One day I stepped into the elevator. She didn't have those dark glasses on. Her eyes were sky blue, shockingly blue. And I learned that she was from St. Helena Island in Chester, South Carolina. That's when I learned about Gullah people. And I learned that it was not uncommon at a certain period in time for dark-skinned people to have these eyes, these shockingly blue eyes that we knew nothing about. And it didn't have to do anything with miscegenation. You know, it was kind of a phenomenon. Then I learned more. I learned about the speech, that the speech was different. Okay. And I thought, well, gee whiz, I want to go. I want to see it. It would be many years before I would go. And I went as a result of Toni Morrison Society meeting in Charleston, South Carolina. And there I was in Charleston, and I went to the Slave Mart Museum, and I said to the curator there, where are the people? I want to meet the people. And she said, the people? I said, yeah, I want to meet the Gullah people. She said, well, they're over in the market. I said, no, you don't understand. I want to meet the people. She said, oh, you want to go to St. Helena Island? I said, yes, that's exactly where I want to go. So she told me how to get there. And I got into a rental car and drove to St. Helena Island from Charleston by myself, talking to my brother Hugh on the cell phone. He was navigating from his computer, telling me, okay, you go that far now, wait there, make a right turn, make a left turn. So I drove to Beaufort, then I took the parkway over. And when I arrived in St. Helena, it was like being in heaven. Those trees that arch
with the moss
and form a canopy across the road, and the sense of peace that pervades the place, it is so tangible. And I was looking at these old buildings. Now, this is after I'd been working with Brainerd Institute with my mom for a while.
Right.
And I knew that I was looking at old buildings and that they were still standing. What I was going to learn was that These buildings were built by students in the 1800s, and they are still standing. Cement laid in the 1800s without a crack in it. The lady at the museum said, go to St. Helena Island. They'll be waiting for you there. And I didn't know what she meant. I drove up and down the street, thought I was at the wrong place. And then I pulled into the Penn Center, and this very tall, ebony man walks out. He said, "I glad for seeing you." I looked at him, I said, "I'm glad for seeing you too." I understood what he was saying. I understood what he meant. He was so warm and so welcoming. He said, "We've been waiting for you." I mean, my people were waiting. It felt like history. My people from history were waiting for me to come here and to discover a part of myself through being in this place that somehow I knew about, but hadn't really touched in the way that I was getting ready to.
Right.
He gave me a tour. I walked into the museum. I looked at the pictures of the students from the 1800s, the women in their starched shirts and their straw hats. These were the people who built the very buildings I was looking at. I learned about that. I saw a doctor's kit from a student who had graduated from St. Helena, went to medical school, and came back to serve the people of his community. His kit is in that museum. I toured the grounds, and I was taken to a house back down a lane, and I was told this house was built for Dr. Martin Luther King, this cabin. When people couldn't find him, this is where he would be. He would come here. It was like I was in present and past at the same time, and it was warm, and it was welcoming, and it was beautiful, and it was true. And then, I learned so much. I learned before I went to St. Helena that the people on St. Helena, the Africans on St. Helena, were freed before the first shot was fired on Fort Sumter.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, and that accounts for a lot, because there's not an oppressive feeling here on St. Helena. There's a feeling of triumph. You feel it. There's a feeling of joy, because the people were separated from the mainland for so long. They lived in their culture. And I learned about rice. People talk about cotton all the time. Nobody talks about rice. Yeah. People got very rich off of rice, child.
We eat rice every day. Literally every day.
Every day. And people thought rice came from China. It did not. Rice came from Africa. Thank you kindly. Mm-hmm. And the people knew how to grow the rice. I learned so much in one afternoon. I went back and my head was just spinning, and I had to thank Professor Morrison 1,000,000 times over, because she had brought me to this place.
Right.
And later I would bring my mother to this place. Yeah.
Dr. Todd McLean provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338, or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
Well, here's a quick question. Where do you eat when you're visiting St. Helena?
Okay, I don't remember the name of the place, but it's near the Red Piano.
Gullah Grove?
Yes.
It's like across the street. It's right at the light.
It's right at the light.
Uh-huh.
Right at the light. That's where I eat. Some good food over there. She crab soup. Yeah. It's good.
So here's an invitation.
Yes.
Juneteenth 2021 It's a Saturday next year. Come to St. Helena Island. My Aunt Sheila, she has some of the best cookouts. Crab cracks, fish fry. My uncle, he DJs. Bring the family, and we'll celebrate.
Wow.
On St. Helena Island.
It's my birthday,
I know. That's what I was saying. You can spend some time with your people, then you can go to the beach, go to Huntington Island or Fripp Island, and
I love it.
Go to the beach too.
I love the language. I have the New Testament in Gullah language.
Right.
Oh yeah, I got that. I love that. It's a proud heritage, a beautiful heritage, and everyone who comes to St. Helena Island, because I've been back and I've seen other visitors come. I've seen visitors come who are not African American. Everyone who comes there is affected the same way. Everyone is engulfed with the peace.
Right. They want to stay.
They want to stay.
They want to find land.
Well, that would be all right, except they start developing
land.
stuff. Yes, the people on St. Helena have been pretty good about holding forth on that, And I hope that will continue.
We have a lot of programs educating folks on how to preserve the land and not fall victim to any shenanigans.
Well, that lure of a dollar bill. It's just the lure of a dollar bill. But what young people need to understand is that is the first thing to leave you. Mm-hmm. There's some things that money just can't buy.
Right.
And so they should not be sold. And I look up now, and I was told the last time I was in Charleston and went to the market and talked to the artisans there who were making baskets, I learned that they have to go all the way to Florida to get sweetgrass now, because the grass is, because of development, the grass is not there. I thought, no, this ain't right. This is not right, And you look across over on Sullivan Island and you see all that development over there, and it's like, okay. But St. Helena, I pray that it will always be as it is, preserved that way, and that the people and young people will come to know that this is treasure.
Yeah, there's a new generation that's popping up, of people my age in our 30s and 40s that our mission is to preserve the Gullah culture.
Yes, please do.
So speaking of that, you're a part of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and this would tie into Brainerd and Penn Center. The importance of preserving our landmarks while also fighting to remove like statues and names of individuals with the sketchy background from buildings.
Well, the National Trust, just to be perfect with you, the National Trust is really about preservation.
Right.
I mean, it has never been a goal or activity or, to remove anything so much as to preserve a human story, human story. And specifically, I am the spokesperson for the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund, which is part of the National Trust. The National Trust created this particular fund for the preservation of sites that connect to our history as African American people. And our history as African American people, and you learn through these different sites, is beyond being oppressed. There is so much activism in our history. Brainerd Institute is an example of it, but just one example of it. There's so much activism in our history. and we don't get to hear about it. You know, we don't get to know about it. So maybe now with what other people are doing, other organizations, I'll put it that way, are doing to remove things, maybe we'll come to know more about that. Certainly with this preservation of cultural sites,
right.
Young people will come to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need young people to know. So young people don't have to carry the burden of anger. You know, you don't have to carry that. You can look to Penn Center with pride. There's no anger. No, it's not about that. And when you think about these people living on this island for how many decades before there was a bridge, without a connection to the mainland, and how the culture was preserved because of that.
What I take the most pride in is how we as a people, specifically from my hometown, we know how to make something out of nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to know how to make something more out of something.
Mm-hmm.
and the people are not disheartened and down.
Right.
The people are, this is what I see in St. Helena. People think Helena are buoyant. And you have a very interesting trait too. I love this. This is what I love. If you go to St. Helena Island thinking you know everything about it, you're going to leave with just that amount of knowledge. Because, now you know I'm telling the truth.
I'm going to let you finish.
Y'all sit and just look at people. Y'all just look at people. And people just be going on and on and on. And you're very, very gracious and very welcoming. And just, and don't try to force a thing. But if people are still and people are open,
mm-hmm.
they will learn a lot. Did I say it right?
No, you hit the nail on the head. It's like we walk with this strong sense of humility.
Yes.
Where because of, I guess, our path in life, there's always this sense that tomorrow we have to work extra harder than we did today or the previous day. So it's like there's never a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. We feel like there's still so much more that we have to achieve, whether that's for us personally or for our family, extended family, for the community or beyond. There's always some sense of motivation.
Yeah. Yes, this is true. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful.
So let's get into some of the other initiatives that you're involved in recently, specifically.
Yeah.
The Black Theater United.
Mm-hmm.
To speak briefly about your involvement and the importance of minorities participating in the 2020 census.
Oh, okay. So Black Theater United is an artists collective. It's a collective of theater artists, actors, mm-hmm. singers, dancers, I'll just say performers, designers, stage managers, directors, producers. We're very new, actually. Just within this past 3.5 weeks, we organized ourselves very quickly. And on YouTube, you can see our PSA. And what are we about? We're about enacting positive and lasting change. Not just in theater, but in the greater society as well. So our first course of action was to become involved with educating, inviting, encouraging people to respond to the census, to the 2020 census. Why? Because it determines many important things for the next 10 years and beyond. It determines funding for hospitals, for schools, for public services in your community. The census determines how funds will be allocated for those things in your community. If you do not register, if you do not respond to the census, you are not counted. And as Audra McDonald says, if you are not counted, you don't count.
Yeah. So how do we get a lot of African Americans in our community to participate in the census? Because I'm always hearing from friends or those that I cross paths with that they're not filling out the census for a variety of reasons. They don't want to be found. So
it's not about you being found, child. It's about you being counted. They consider it. People consider it invasive. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Your telephone is invasive.
Everything is right now.
And your computer is invasive. Your credit cards are invasive. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you the difference between all of those invasive measures and the census is going to determine funds allocated to your community for health services, for education, for public services. That's what the census is about. It also helps with voting districts, right? Now that's the next best thing. Do these same people not register to vote? Because if you don't vote for someone, your non-vote becomes a vote for someone else.
Right.
So think about that. Think about that deeply as you look at what's going on today, that you can see, because for all that we can see, there's so much more that we don't see. Okay? You have to think about these things and act on them. And you do this not just for yourself, you do this for your community, and you do this for the generations that cannot speak for themselves yet. And you teach them the way through your own actions.
So on Juneteenth, you participated in the Black Women at the Ballot virtual. And you performed Pulling the Lever. Speak on that project and then sort of adjusting to, theater life during the pandemic.
Yes. So a dear friend of mine, Meseret Stroman, who's an actress, called and said, "Miss Felicia, there's this project and such and so, and we're going to record it and we're going to stream it, and this is about Black women at the ballot. And would you consider participating in one of these 8-minute plays?" I said, "Of course I'll do it." So each play is different. There were 3 plays, and the one I was in, Pulling the Lever, was literally 8 minutes long. And there were 3 characters. There was a mother with her daughter and an elder. Mm-hmm. And the entirety of those 8 minutes really had to do with what it means, what it meant to those individuals to vote. The young woman was taken into the voting booth as a child by her mother. I did the same thing with my daughter. I carried her in my arms and picked her up so she could see what I was doing. She understood. I wanted her to understand from an early age this is what you must do. And so I saw this being played out in this play, and I said, oh yes, I'll do this. And then the character that I portrayed was an elderly woman who was remembering the first time that she voted, because she grew up in the segregated South before the Voting Rights Act was passed. And she lamented that her parents had tried so hard every year, but were never allowed to vote because of a test. How many bubbles in this bar of soap? How many jelly beans are in this jar? People don't recall that there used to be nonsensical means such as those used for voter suppression. That was real. That kind of thing really did happen. You have to take a test before you can vote. Doesn't matter if you're an adult. It doesn't matter if you've got children. It doesn't matter if you've got grandchildren. It doesn't matter if you work and you pay taxes. You have to take a test. We have to know that you're intelligent enough to vote for the right person. So how many jelly beans are in this jar? How many bubbles are in this bar of soap? That happened. In my lifetime, that was happening. We don't have to be angry about it. We have to understand it, because whatever that thought process was, that thought process still lingers today.
Right.
And now it changes to other means. It changes its tactics. Its tactics, you know? It changes them. But the desired result is still the same, voter suppression.
Right.
And today we must stand to say, no, we are going to insist and support our nation in living up to its promise.
So I have a quick question kind of tied to this. So your former co-star in The Raisin in the Sun, Sean Combs, recently made a statement that pretty much said that you have to earn our vote. Do you think that's like somewhat dangerous rhetoric, considering the urgency of getting the right outcome on election day this year?
No. Sean is a person who shoots from the hip. Mm-hmm. He tells it like he sees it. And he's saying to people, don't play with me. Because I'm not playing with you. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at what you do, not just what you say. That's what he's saying. Mm-hmm. Dangerous? I think it's dangerous to sit quietly by and watch all these things happen and do nothing about them. I think it's very dangerous not to register to vote. I think it's very dangerous not to vote. I think it's very dangerous to allow future generations to grow up without courses in civics and economics. I think it's very dangerous. I think it's very dangerous. That's dangerous.
I love it. So I can't have an interview with the matriarch of the Black community without asking about Cosby Show and just the impact that it has had over the last 30 plus years. Did you, when you got the role, did you envision that it would have such a lasting legacy?
No. I was happy to be in the room, and I loved going to work every day. And I had no idea. None of us did. Well, we didn't. You mean me and the children. We weren't thinking about that. We were thinking about what we were doing, and we were enjoying it. And it was a wonderful place and way to work, because we were in a sitcom in which nobody was being made to look stupid, foolish. Every character had dignity. And what was funny was the truth of human behavior. And that was funny. Right. You know, that some boy would allow his sister to make a shirt that looked like it came from God knows where. That some teenage girl would tell her mother she was going someplace and get on a bus and go all the way to Baltimore to see the Wretched. This is the truth of human behavior, and the way parents responded. You know, that this family would celebrate grandparents and their wedding anniversary with a performance up and down the stairs, lip syncing to Ray Charles. This is what people do. You know, that the children did not mock, did not insult, did not disrespect their grandparents, make fun of them because they were old. You know what I'm talking about. You see some of this stuff where that kind of behavior is acceptable. He said, absolutely not. We'll not have that. We will not have that. We will not
in my family tree. Not in my family tree at
all.
No,
we will not have that. And we will not have any little smart-lipped children around here either, because we know where teeth would be. And it would
on
be
the floor.
They'd be on the floor. You don't do that. You don't talk. No, we don't do that. No, it was really, really great. And it was also great because of the cultural influences that were being presented to the American audience at large. Jazz and visual arts and, when do you see Placido Domingo in a sitcom? When do you see we had everybody on that show. We had Patti LaBelle on that show, Leslie Uggams on that show, Lena Horne on that show, Nancy Wilson on that show, Joe Williams on that show. We had all the jazz greats on that show. Christopher Plummer was on that show. Sammy Davis Jr. was on that show. Dizzy Gillespie was on that show. Stevie Wonder was on that show. It was phenomenal.
I almost felt like we received more of an education on our history from the Cosby Show than a lot of individuals would get from their school systems.
You received some of it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the show we did about the March on Washington. And that was a brilliant thing that sparked, that was inspiration that sparked. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that. I look back on those years with so much gratitude, because as an actor, I could do any number of things that have no meaning for anybody.
Right.
They have no meaning for me. There's a lot that an actor could do that doesn't mean a thing. So to be able to be part of something that meant so much to so many people. When I met Nelson Mandela, and I did, he thanked me. He said, I watched your show on Robben's Island. I watched it with my guard. It softened him.
Softened me. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, even though I could talk to you all day about a number of other topics. Mm-hmm. But I know you're a very busy individual right now. And do you want to plug how Brainerd how people can donate to Brainerd Institute?
Go to the website, Brainerd Institute Heritage, and there's a donate button there. You can see the work we've been doing with preschoolers. You can see what our workshops in open fields has been about. This was a program that my mother developed when she was still living in Houston, Texas. It became the National Endowment for the Arts. Nancy Hanks, who was the leader of that organization at the time, recognized this as the model grassroots arts education program. And what we did when we brought it to Chester was we focused it on literacy. So children were being taught, being prepared to go to school, to be attentive and to be interested. And more importantly, they were being taught that they were smart. That's right, smart.
So ladies and gentlemen, Miss Phylicia Rashad. Like I said, that's a bucket list interview for me. Like for kids growing up in the 80s, some without fathers in their lives, being able to tune into NBC Thursday night at 8 o'clock and watch a family where Miss Rashad had 5 kids and was able to be the anchor of the household and make sure everyone was empowered, loved, and cherished. I mean, that's our dream as a kid, is to, see that on the screen. So we love you. You're a national treasure, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Thank you very much.